A cowboy lent his horse to an Apache girl. Days later, something unthinkable reached his ranch. The cowboy had one horse. It was the only thing he owned that could get him through the mountains before winter. Then he saw the Apache girl struggling along the trail on foot. Her name was Ilara. She was exhausted, frightened, and trying desperately to reach someone before nightfall. The cowboy knew what lending his horse could cost him. Still, he handed her the reins. "Take him." She stared at him. "And if I don't come back?" He smiled. "Then I'll trust you had a good reason." He never imagined that 3 days later, something would arrive at his ranch that would leave him speechless. If you love emotional Old West stories filled with kindness, mystery, and unforgettable twists, like, share, and subscribe to Story Vault. Now, let's get started. Arizona Territory, 1887. Cowboy Jonas Cole lived alone on a small ranch at the edge of the desert. His horse, Copper, was more than an animal. Copper was his transportation, his work partner, and his last connection to the outside world. One afternoon, Jonas found Ilara walking beside the trail. "Where are you going?" "My grandmother is sick," she answered. "She's beyond the canyon." Jonas looked at the dark clouds gathering overhead. "You won't make it on foot." He handed her Copper's reins. Ilara stared at him. "You'll need him." "I'll manage." She hesitated. "Why would you trust me?" Jonas looked toward the mountains. "Because someone once trusted me when they had every reason not to." Ilara rode away. 3 days passed. On the 4th morning, Jonas heard something outside. Not hoofbeats. Hundreds of them. He stepped onto the porch. His eyes widened. An entire Apache community stood beyond his fence. At the front was Ilara. She dismounted and walked toward him. Jonas reached for his rifle. Ilara raised both hands. "We didn't come to hurt you." She turned toward the people behind her. "We came because you saved my grandmother." An elderly woman stepped forward. She carried a small wooden box. "This belonged to my husband," she said. She opened it. Inside was an old silver medallion. Jonas stared at it. He recognized the symbol. It belonged to his father. "My father?" The woman nodded. 30 years ago, your father saved my husband during a winter storm." Jonas couldn't speak. His father had died when Jonas was young. He had always believed his father left no legacy, but the truth had traveled quietly through generations. The woman handed him the medallion. "Your father helped us when nobody else would." She smiled. "Your kindness was not the beginning of this story." Jonas looked at Ilara. It was a continuation. That afternoon, the Apache families helped Jonas repair his broken fences. Some brought food, others brought medicine. Ilara returned Copper to him, but Jonas noticed something. The horse had a new leather bridle decorated with tiny blue beads. "I can't accept this," he said. Ilara smiled. "You lent us your horse." She touched the bridle. "We wanted you to remember that kindness always comes back carrying something." Jonas looked around his once empty ranch. For the first time, it wasn't silent. Children were laughing. People were sharing food, and strangers were sitting around his fire as if they had always belonged there. Jonas looked at Ilara. "You know, I thought I was lending you my horse." Ilara smiled. "You were." He looked toward the crowded ranch. "And somehow you brought me a family." The ending. Jonas thought he had given away the most valuable thing he owned. A horse. 3 days later, he discovered something far more valuable waiting at his door, a forgotten piece of his father's kindness. And perhaps that's how goodness works. It doesn't always return from the person you helped. Sometimes it travels through years, through families, through memories, until one morning it reaches your doorstep and quietly says, "You were never forgotten." If this story touched your heart, tell us. Have you ever done something kind and received something unexpected years later? Tell us where you're watching from. And remember, Never think a good deed is too small to matter. You may forget it tomorrow, but somewhere, someone may carry it in their heart for the rest of their life. Come back to Story Vault for the next story. Because sometimes the most beautiful surprises in life begin with something as simple as trusting a stranger.